You're heading to the polls. You are headed to the polls. All signs are that this Sunday, Prime Minister Mark Carney will call a snap election. You'll be headed to the polls on April 28th. That could be the earliest date. Let's find out about the beginnings of this election campaign with none other than Robert Fife, the Ottawa bureau chief for the Globe and Mail. Robert, welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
Everyone is in campaign mode, whether it's Mark Carney on the ice yesterday in Edmonton. I'm seeing Pierre Poilievre campaign on my TV set right now with the message of boots, not suits. What do you make of this election that is, just a couple of days away?
Well, it's going to probably be the most important election since Confederation, and that's because Donald Trump is poised to hit Canada with 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods, except for 10% will be on energy, potash, and critical minerals. He's already slapped that 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum. And if that happens, and there's no reason why it's not going to happen, he's planning on doing global tariffs. We're going to be job losses and probably push Canada into a recession. And he also keeps talking about annexing Canada. So we've never seen in Canadian history a U.S. president wanting to take over a country and to be so absolutely threatening in terms of an economic war. And so this race is really going to be between two men, Mark Carney, the former central banker, and Pierre Poilievre, the conservative leader, about who is the best person to defend Canada and who is the best person to make sure that the Canadian economy can survive and rebuild in a different way so that we can get our energy products to global markets where we can get full price, how we can diversify our trade, and what kind of policies we'll put in place to help workers and businesses that are going to be affected by the U.S. tariffs.
Now, this Mark Carney is not used to being a politician. He's our newly minted prime minister. How do you think he has been doing so far in being a politician, dealing with the press, the photo opportunities? How do you think he's doing so far? And is he well positioned to quickly turn into a politician during an election campaign?
Well, that we won't know until we get to see him in action. He's certainly qualified, probably the most qualified person we've seen in terms of being able to deal with economic crisis. Former Bank of Canada governor, former Bank of England governor. He dealt with the 2008 global financial crisis here on the basis of his work on doing that. England came looking for him, and then he helped the British work through Brexit, even though he was opposed to Brexit, because he thought it would eventually harm the British economy, which it has. But he's not an experienced politician. He does not like to get tough questions from political journalists. He's used to journalists who are financial reporters who tend to be more respectful and compliant, simply because that's the nature of they're dealing with a central banker. But he's not a central banker anymore. Mm-hmm. He's the prime minister, and he's a Liberal leader, and he's running for office. So we'll see how he adjusts to this. But he's had a couple of moments with the media where he has bristled at the questions that we put forward to him.
And what part of those questions, a lot of it has been about blind trust, conflicts of interest, how he will handle those situations. It's not lost on me if you've got Brookfield Asset Management, you've got holdings in Brookfield. It seems like virtually any decision a prime minister would make could be affected by those things. How do you view those questions of conflicts of interest and blind trust?
I think, look, he's put his holdings in a blind trust. We don't know who the administrator of the blind trust is, but most significantly, he's got stock options and whatnot from Brookfield Assets, which has it's investments in every major sector of the economy. It's worth it has investments of $1 trillion all over the world, U.S. So I mean, to be honest, he should sell all of his stock and his options in Brookfield to ensure that he's absolutely clean and he doesn't have to recuse himself. Right now, he's talking to the ethics commissioner about setting up conflict of interest screens that would recuse, so he would have to recuse himself from any kind of decisions affecting presumably Brookfield. But I think the simpler way is just to sell those stocks.
Yeah, and because I think about previous examples like Paul Martin, right, with shipyards, right. But that's a rare thing over the course of a mandate to have to deal with that type of thing. But I'm looking at housing and I'm looking at energy, and it's to me, I struggle with figuring out how he can recuse himself from those big decisions if he's got those holdings. I imagine that's what the ethics commissioner is looking at.
Yeah, when we don't know about it, but the worst part about it is the election has to be. The election could be over by the time we find out, because he has 60 days to work this out with the ethics commissioner, and then 120 days to let the public know. I don't think that's good enough in this day and age.
We're with Robert Fife from the Globe and Mail. Let's talk about the Conservatives here and leader Pierre Poilievre. The Conservatives made a decision that I don't think is going over well with a lot of journalists, and that is no journalists on the campaign plane during this election campaign.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. We have to hold our leaders to account. I think it's anti-democratic. We pay our way on these planes. We pay for the flights, and we pay for the buses, and we pay for the media room, and we pay our own hotel rooms. So the campaigns actually usually make money off of us. So this idea that it's too expensive is ridiculous. And, you having reporters on the plane, you are constantly there to be able to cover them. You follow the ebb and flow of a campaign, when they're doing well, when they're not doing well. You can see when a campaign is beginning to lose. Look, when blackface happened, the reporters were on the plane when that story broke, and they were able to get Trudeau right away. He didn't have a day to figure out how he's going to respond to this. I just think it looks very Trumpian-like, and he doesn't want mainstream media covering him.
What do you say to the Conservatives when with those very points they say, well, look at how many questions Pierre Poilievre is answering, his media availabilities?
Yeah, but that doesn't work either. Here's the problem we have too, is that he's got Rebel News and a thing called True North and Juno News are often asking questions. These are pro-partisan conservative news organizations. They're not really even news organizations. Rebel News goes around when they see liberal politicians that report so-called media personalities are screaming and yelling in their faces. And when they deal with Mr. Poilievre, they're like little puppy dogs. They don't even bark. They lick his shoes. And they're always getting questions now, and it's very difficult for us to get questions. So it's a real problem. Now, listen, I have to go because I have we were supposed to. I was told we were going to do this at 10, but I have somebody else waiting at 10:15, so I really have to go. I apologize.
Robert, don't worry about it. I like a guest that knows when he has to head for the exits. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate your time. That's Robert Fife from the Globe and Mail.